Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. It's loading up right now for the live stream on the YouTube. I got the chat pulled up. Let me close. There you go. There you go. The one and only Rahul Batman. What's going on?
Rahul, by God, what's the dealio?
Man, listen, I've been getting a lot of questions. The bad thing about it is all of the internet is out over here where I live at, so I actually can't use my computer or nothing. I only can use my phone.
Okay.
Terrible. All right, so, and I'm trying to still learn to work this because I didn't realize I needed my computer and my phone in order to be able to pull up the chats. So I can't really see the chats on the YouTube. But
okay, do this. Your wife there with you?
No, she's at work.
Okay. You don't have no tablets you can watch YouTube on?
No, because the Wi-Fi don't work.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up. If I see some questions, I got another device.
Yeah, because two of the sisters that reached out to me, the sister Rhonda, and she contacted the sister Nefera, and they had questions, but pretty much a lot of the questions that they had, I know with Miss Rhonda, she's already given me those questions, so I can relay it to you, and you can go ahead and jump right on in.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so a big thing is this. We spoke about it in the Millennium Book or the year 2000 of what to expect, the Blue Rock Project. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, brother?
You said the Blue Rock Project?
Right. With the Montauk.
What's the question about it?
He wanted to know, like, what was it all about and how would that affect us?
Okay, so I don't have a full description of the Blue Rock from the book, but I can tell you from experience, it don't mean what it say.
Okay.
So the Blue Rock, that's the York Rite Blue Lodge. Remember the War of the Roses?
Absolutely, with the Yorks and the Lancasters.
Right. Well, the Yorks, Baba owned that now. He took it over through erudition and ascension. So when he say the Blue Rock, he's talking about the one that nobody don't know coming off the Blue Lodge, which is the York Rite. And it is the same if off the Red Lodge, it's the Black Rock. And no matter how you look at it, it's the stone the builders rejected. The stone the builder rejected, we know becomes the chief cornerstone, right?
Okay.
But where do it come from? When you go to Daniel and it talk about the giant with the head of gold and the feet of iron and clay,
right,
and being the Babylonian empires, right?
Right.
And then it say, what was the end of it? A single stone would be hewn from the mountain without the hands of a man and will roll down the hill and strike the feet of iron and clay. Remember that?
I sure do.
And that brings the whole unholy Roman Empire down. So the iron and clay is the symbolic of America, the great melding pot. You can't meld iron with clay. But what it's talking about is the royal bloodlines mixed with the peasantry. So when we're talking about the stone the builders rejected, besides the biblical reference, where else do you find that stone being hewn from a mountain? That's the story of the Monkey King, Sun Wukong. In India, The Buddha called Sun Wukong Hanuman, which means a handy man, a man that's handy to have around, know a little bit about everything, which brings us to the riddle, a jack of all trades, master of none, is still better than a master of one. So it's saying that the handyman know a little bit of something about a little bit of everything. And then he's gonna put it all together so you can see the big picture. So this is what the blue stone is. It's the blue house, the blue lodge. It's the one being trained. And this would bring an end to all of those other nefarious ventures that the lesser beings was using to try to conquer the so-called gods.
Right.
Right. So they put all of these councils and committees together so that they can use multiple individuals' brain power to usurp us. The problem is that ain't gonna work.
Oh, wow. So another question that one of the other sisters had is the knowledge of non-ether is very complicated. Could you give it to them in a more simplistic way? Like what non-ether is, how it works, and how it personified itself as flesh and blood beings in the form of our race, dark-skinned woolly hair people?
Okay, so when we talk about the non-ether being, look at it like the body. The earth is a living organism, and the non-ether beings is the antibodies. The energy that produces the non-ether being is pure source energy. If it produced more than one of them, it produced what we call the gods, plural. If only one is produced, it's a god, right? So the non-ether beings are the ones who nature used as antibodies to clean up the mishaps of developing humanity. So when we say non-ether, you're talking about the highest spiritual expression, and it comes across as the salt of the earth in the music and the art and varying forms of entertainment. The non-ether is expressed as a right brain, abstract, non-linear reasoning that surpasses logic. The inorganic beings and the hybrids that's here operate off left brain linear logic, and is subjugated to the right brain when they synced.
So isn't that like saying that non-ether is more of the feminine principle than the masculine if it's more right brain? Because the right brain.
So if you want to read about it without using the term non-ether, you would go to India and read about something called Shakti energy.
Okay, I'm familiar with that by studying Hinduism.
Right. So the Shakti energy is the same as the non-ether energy. If you are Egyptologist, you would read about it as Sekhmet energy.
Okay, Sekhmet means power, and it's the feminine of Sekhem.
Mm-hmm. And the man who is privy to carry the Sekhmet energy is normally going to be volatile if he don't have his self-control developed, what we call he haven't become a master yet. He haven't mastered his lower nature.
Okay, so expound on that a little bit. Like, because what you just said was that the man who carries the Sekhmet, which is the feminine energy, but don't really carry the, or I should say he's not really in tune with the Sekhem, the masculine energy. You said he'll self-destruct.
Right. He becomes tyrannical by nature. It's just natural for him to do it. It's just like giving a baby a nuclear briefcase wide open and don't never tell him he's gonna end the world if he push the button. And you know what the baby gonna do? Slap all the buttons.
He sure is.
So that's all it is. When you feel that power, if he haven't conquered his ego, his lower nature, then he becomes subjective to tyrannical use of that higher energy, because one, it's going to drive him to destroy because the system is out of order. But if he haven't conquered his lower nature, he will never know what part of the system to fix. So he just tear everything up.
Oh yeah, he out of order. He definitely
Yeah.
out of order.
So we call them, when you look in the human arena in history, we call them despots. We call them tyrannical leaders, psychopathic leaders, rogue kings, stuff like that is in the history when they get that energy and haven't conquered that lower nature.
And
so
what is
we
what is
still talking nine ether. We just using it in different schools of thought. In Egypt, Sekhmet, and India is Shakti, right? And the Shakti is activated by the Kriya, which is the fire of the root chakra, right? And it carries
right?
all the way up to the crown. Okay, so they say in the Kabbalah is from Malkuth to Kephra. In the Kabbalah, the same energy is called the Ein Sof.
Right. I know.
Right.
I know about. I studied the Kabbalah extensively.
Right.
And
So
the tree
it's
of
the
life.
same energy.
Okay, so let's go here with it. In the holy tablets, the master teacher taught us that non-ether was conscious awareness and conscious moral judgment gases. Can you explain the difference in how that's actually perceived?
Yeah. So as you purify your ego to receive your higher consciousness, right? You got to remember, pure chaos is melanin. Melanin is sentient on its own. It don't need nobody to be sentient. But being utilized along with the other systems of the body, then the nine ether has to be the one who can tame the chaos and bring the balance. The balance is where you find the righteous.
Okay.
Right? The righteousness is a side effect of purifying the lower ego and receiving that higher Shakti nine ether energy.
So
Right?
basically, are you saying that non-ether would be a higher form of intelligence that allows us to be able to discipline ourselves in the spiritual realm and the physical realm to be able to be in harmony with both sides?
Well, I would more look at it like once you gain the discipline, you gain access to use nine ether energy in real time. Lacking the discipline and the self-control, then you just a soccer mile monkey band, bouncing around, never knowing what you're doing.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
so the discipline gives you access to the nine ether. Now you finna make a connection with source energy. When you make this connection, you have to already have the self-discipline to activate what's already in you. So now the side effect of that is once you can reason to the level to activate the nine ether, now the melanin chaos comes in, because you won't be able to balance the chaos if you don't have the discipline to receive the nine ether. And the chaos is melanin. When it come in, it's gonna automatically send you on an immediate downward spiral to your lowest base nature to return and rise back up as the phoenix.
Why is that?
Because it's chaos. When it first hit, it's like a bomb. And when it hit internally, you don't know what's going on immediately, but your higher self is using the discipline you develop to reorganize what the chaos is doing, because you're using the source, you're using the prime creator to balance out total insanity. So,
Okay, so melanin,
it
why is melanin based in chaos? Can you give us the science of that?
it's not based in chaos. It's the prime creative substances in which the order came from. When we talking about melanin, we talking about in Egyptology, it's the primordial noon, right? It's the waters of creation And the waters are running amok until you can harness them water's energy. Water
Right.
symbolic of spirit.
Right, because I remember when Pops was teaching us about noon and basically undifferentiated matter, he was explaining how this is a state of nothingness, basically a state of existence before things actually combined and aggregated and came together to form what we see now today in the physical realm.
Yep. So it's like if you pour a soda pop in the glass, it's going to fizz. It's not fizzing because it couldn't fizz in the bottle. It's only
Right.
fizzing because you just poured it into a cup and disturbed it.
Right.
This is what the melanin is doing. So now, as you learn to control pouring the soda in the cup in order to reduce the amount of fizz so that you don't overflow the cup, this is how you, your higher self is organizing the chaos energy, and it uses your self-discipline to do it.
Now, when you look in like Google or different scientific books of ancient Greek mythology, they attempted to teach us that chaos was a Greek god that represented the universe when it wasn't unformed. Or excuse me, when it was unformed, when it was undifferentiated matter. How would you go about explaining that to the grassroots?
So the Greek sciences comes from the Egyptian knowledge. The metaphors that they're using in the Greek is actually a science. So when they're talking about chaos, they literally talking about the primordial noon. So imagine all good and bad things existing in a state of non-existence, bumping into each other, and there's no form of expression, and it's just random and erratic.
Right.
In order to have creation, you have to bring that under control of order. And
Matt.
this is why they say out of darkness comes the light. Light is created. If you remember in the Holy Tabs, Pops talks about the dot forming a line.
That's in chapter 1, tablet 1.
Yep.
And then the line formed the wall formed the square, and so on and so forth.
He's telling you how light is created from the primordial noon in order for it to manifest visible spectrum so you can see it.
So was that this is for the people, was that a literal line, a literal wall, or what does it represent metaphorically?
Metaphorically, there's no terms in the languages that we know on the earth to explain it. And the closest thing that he can give you to explain it is the dot forming the line. Because you can use the 2D written expression to relay a 19-dimensional framework in a simplified form, but it's going to take years for the mind to unlock it.
Okay, and that's now that you say that, another question that came up in the conversation with a couple of the sisters that's in our class. You mentioned the 5D. So let's say 3D, 4D, 5D. I want you to kind of sort of in simplistic terms explain what is a dimension, and then from there, what is a third dimension, fourth dimension, and fifth dimension?
Okay, so now what we're looking at when we're talking about the dimensions is levels of frequency and how the frequency is expressed so that the mind can perceive what the frequency is telling it. So when we talk two-dimensional, we talk about that thing which is written on a flat surface. That's the 2D. When we talk three-dimensionally, we're talking about a fixed position reality that have three forms of existence: solid, liquid, and gas. When we get to the fourth dimension, this is the plane of force. This is the field of mind. And by the way, that's the dream realm, the fourth dimension.
That's in the tablets 2, chapter 7, the living soul. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, oh man, you're right on it. So the dream realm is where we create the lower realms, 3D, 2D, like that. The dimensions is described in 3D as like different light rays. Like the light take on the spectrum and we can only see a small portion of it.
Right.
So the portion that's above our perception would be higher dimension, and those which is lower from lower perception is what we would call lower dimensions. The 3D is where all of the upper dimensions is expressed in the physical realm. This is the best way to describe 3D is 3D fixed position reality, having a God particle as a stabilizing link. So when they discovered the Higgs boson in 2012, that was discovering the wall that the line created. Because it's all condensed light rays. Everything that we think we see as a physical object on a molecular level is nothing that we think it is.
Right. That's why
Right.
they say the physical world is an illusion.
Yeah. So when you study epigenetics, you realize that wherever we are in truth, we not really here. We projected here in consciousness. So the easiest way to explain our collective unconscious, where we all linked, is like a big bag of water, and you dropped it on a pin cushion. Every little stream of water that comes out of that is one of us, but the source bag is Prime Creator.
Got you. So go ahead.
We call it a mastermind, like Napoleon Hill Mastermind Group. And the Law of Success explains it perfect, where it can be used. So the whole world of thinking people forms a egregore, which is a thought form. The egregore then takes on its own life separate from those who created it. The whole trick of the secret society is learning to take control of the egregore of humanity, which goes back to the 100 monkey effect. When you strategically place specifically powerful minded people and specific geographical locations around the world, and they can communicate telepathically, all of the ones who turn their telepathy off become subject to the will of those who could drive the egregore, which is only a thought form. It's a collection of thoughts. So to hack into it, you build up a belief system. What happens when you build up a belief system is you create a thought form with its own subsection in the egregore at large. So it's like creating a little cell of believers over here and over there. That's why religion is there. All of these years of our people praying to Jesus, Muhammad, we created the power in the egregore of those religions that make it more believable to the ones who haven't woke up to the egregore's nature yet.
And you define egregore as what?
A thought form.
That everybody has, or it's just relative to specific people?
Well, the universal mind is the egregore. They call it the universal mind, or the great mind, different stuff like that in metaphysics. But it's just the egregore. This is the collection of all of the thinking that we do on the planet, knowingly or unknowingly. The side effect of any agreement between two or more people generates an egregore. And that's how religion is kept powerful.
So how does that relate to the oversoul?
The oversoul is the encasement of the universal mind. The oversoul don't care if you murder a motherfucker or if you get murdered. It's indifferent. Not until it comes into the universal mind do we start distinguishing right from wrong and developing the polarity of opposites, which is a 3D construct. Because once you get into the 5D, birth, murder and birth is the same thing.
Right. It's opposite ends of the same spectrum.
Right. It's just how Pop said, the only difference is degree.
Right. Just like he was saying, like, there's no good or bad. Like you can use fire to burn somebody, or you can use fire to cook some food that's healthy and feed them to nourish their particular physical body.
So it's neither good or bad. It's what Darth Vader tell Luke. I mean, not Darth Vader. Obi-Wan told Luke, the Force is neither good nor bad. It's your intent that makes it that way.
And how you use it.
Yeah. So just because I got a gun don't mean I got to shoot everybody. But
so
some people are from a different mindset. If they got a gun, they gonna shoot many motherfuckers as they can until they don't got the gun or the bullets no more.
So let's deal with that. The universal mind. Is there one mind that we're all connected with in the universe where we gain our thoughts and our perception from? Or is it one mind that gave us the ability to perceive things on our own?
And simultaneously, both of those things you just said. One produces the other. You can't have one without the other. That's like trying to have a corn without the cob. You can't have one without the other. Now you can take the corn off the cob. You can use the cob separate from the corn, but in its original form, it's gonna produce both.
Got you. So a language question that I was asked, because I had been, and shout out to my elder brother Love, my mentor. He and I have been having extensive conversations about the alchemy of the language in Nuwabic. Can you kind of go in depth about how our particular language evolves us to pretty much have the frequencies that's needed, and speak a little bit about the frequencies as far as like what is needed and why?
Okay, so we in this frequency now of oppressed versus the oppressor. That's the nature of the Aquarian age up until now. It's going into the nature of the Piscean age up until now, going into the Aquarian age, is taking away those opposite or those things that we are under now, those two opposing views. It's like creating a hologram. You need a fixed idea, and then you need a mutable mind. The mutable mind and the fixed idea work in conjunction to create the holographic reality, right? So the language influences, when you know the frequencies and the tones, influences the hologram and how it manifests. So we're talking about the double slit experiment in physics, telling you the mechanics of it. If you don't focus the attention on the frequency is a wave. But once you focus the attention on it, you add the second element to lock it into a fixed position, and it becomes the particle. In the frequency of language, you have to have a grasp of language to know which frequencies facilitate higher thought and which frequencies drive you to a lesser thought. So we're trying to overcome the thoughts that allows oppression to be acceptable to anybody, anywhere on the planet. So Baba say, if a leader gonna be a leader, he gotta have a plan that's workable anywhere. Because if the plan is not workable anywhere, everywhere, it's not truly workable anywhere, right? So we talking about the thinking of leadership. So when you put a language together, like Pops in the community put Nuwapic together, you put Nuwapic together with the understanding of how the tones affects the whole cortex. Now the brain is in the reptilian brain, the old mammal brain and the new mammal brain, the neocortex and the endocortex, or the old cortex, the old brain. When you use all three of them in conjunction, you create a different pitch and tone in which the ears become the receivers of, in order to tell the organism of the self at what level to think. So when we talk about brain waves, alpha waves, zeta waves, etc., we looking at the influence of sound on the physical anatomy. What we is a meat suit. This is a micro organisms formulating a phalanx in order to produce the organism we call the human body. And all parts of creation is phalanx together in the same general format. So the music and the language, the words, go together to alter the psychology in order to change the way the mind receives and expels information in the cyclic formula.
Right.
And when you wake up the neocortex and the endocortex and the reptilian brain simultaneously, this gives you what you call higher levels of consciousness that require the three parts to work together as a whole. So now we call that holistic thinking, when you're using the whole brain to think.
Right.
Right. So it's holistic thinking versus how they giving us homogenized thinking, which has been sanitized to only allow you to believe that you was a slave.
It's just like homogeneity.
Say it again.
That's like the word that describes that to a certain extent is homogeneity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when we get back to language, the reason why Nuwapic is going to be the new language is because it was created with the thought in mind that we don't want to be subjugated no more and that we have to change our thinking. And one of the things they took from us was our organic languages, the language we already spoke. So if they took our languages, the best thing to do is to reformulate a language based on the principles of linguistics that'll allow us to be born thinking at a higher level, because it starts in the womb. That's why they have fetal psychology, because they want to catch the child in the womb and fuck up his thought patterns as early as possible.
So is that relative to the pronunciation of the words in Nuwabic and the meanings of the words? Because I noticed that all my years in teaching Nuwabic, I'm looking at the psychology of the language is very different from like the English language. It's very different in so far as to say there is specific things, like when we're pointing out things in nature or natural phenomena, Nuwapi gives us the ability to define things in a way that in English they do not define it that way.
Yeah, well, look, phonetics is the pronunciation, and the pronunciation is tied into how the mouth is used to push the word out into the environment. What part of the tongue is used? What part of when are you using the roof of the mouth versus the back of the throat? All these are micro studies in understanding linguistics, right? Because we all know that the mouth does something different when you speak Arabic than when you speak English. The Semitic languages rely more on the back of the throat, where the modern English languages rely on the lips and the roof of the mouth. So you get a whole different effect off the language, right? And one of the things that make Baba qualified to even produce a language is the amount of languages he speaks, because he's thinking with multiple parts of the brain simultaneously in different languages. So you know what the word in this language does this, so I'm gonna put this word in my language, right? Or this sound. It goes to the music. Different instruments affect different chakras.
It sure does, because it sparks different emotions.
Right. And it's the same with the words. The words is based on the sounds. The sounds instruments is based on the sound. Right. So the drum not gonna get the same effect as the piano. Though you can get a similar effect if you know how to use them skillfully. The guitar is not gonna get the same effect as the saxophone. But you can get a similar effect if you can use them skillfully. We're trying to make a language. When you talk about making a language, you're trying to get people to not have the skill, but have the effect. So you create the language, you redefine the language, he who defines rules. You write the rules to the language, you write the rules that we all buy. So if you write a language that's rooted in righteousness and you're trying to overcome, divide, and conquer, you're writing what you call a universal language. If you're trying to write a language that is specific to a specific group in a specific geography, and it's no longer become a universal language, and there's no longer righteousness attached to it. It's an agenda come with it.
Right.
The Arab don't want the same thing out of life as Eskimo.
That's correct. So how does language affect us? Like, okay, so let's just go here with it. So I've been teaching the WAPIC for a number amount of years. And during my little journey, I noticed that more people were into the information of Nuwabu than actual Nuwabic. And they pretty much thought that matter of fact, we just had a conversation, and Brother Love was speaking with his sister the other day. They think that they have to have the scrolls or the Nuwabu as a prerequisite to get, new people into the journey or on the path without language. And what the Brother Love has been actually advising me of is, no, that's not true. The language is what's going to actually take us to the fifth dimension. What's your take on that?
I kind of agree with Brother Love, because the most of us became familiar with the language through studying the scrolls. Now, Nuwapic wasn't privy to the public in the 80s, but Baba was still putting information out since the 60s.
Right.
Right. Now, in the 90s, Nuwapic comes with the transition from Ansarullah to HTM.
Right.
Right. So the timing was critical. If you really look at it, if you want to get more depth into the history correlation of the production of the language to the masses, that didn't come to the forefront until after the Million Man March.
Right.
Right.
That's
now,
true.
Because of the events of the Nation of Islam with this Million Man March, he have to put the language out. Because what was done at the Million Man March, that level of unified energy of varying different tribal bloodlines converging on a central location, that was basically serving the corporation an eviction notice and giving them the notice that we about to take our shit back. Y'all got a certain amount of time to get the fuck on.
Okay.
And so the language has to now be forthcoming. You have to produce the language now. We have to put the language out for anybody that is a diligent student to learn it. Right? Because now, in order for us to take things to a higher frequency, we have to speak a language that's coming from a higher frequency. That was the purpose of it. That's the timing of it.
I was told recently that by a sister that, which she's changed her perspective, but I'm still going to put it out there, that all of the people who are promoting that we should teach people Nuwabic over Nuwabu is all men and not women. But then I guess she must have spoke with the sister, and the sister pretty much fell in line with it. Why aren't there the divine feminines promoting the language as more primary, or as a prerequisite as opposed to Nuwabu?
Well, from my understanding, Nuwabu, Baba has some sisters actually penning the language with him.
Right.
But if you look at the sound right reason of Nuwapu, it's linear left brain. And we're in a linear left brain society. So when you're talking about language, you're talking about right brain abstract. And the women will come online with it when they are introduced to it and they understand it. Most of them are being taught more about the sciences of Nuwapu than they being taught about the linguistics of Nuwapic. So they know this. If they don't know nothing else, they know this. If you keep being a damn fool, you're gonna keep being fooled by the damn fools that's fooling you. That's what they know. So when they pushing the Nuwabu and they not really focused on the languages, they already know that if you get enough of this Nuwabu, you're gonna gravitate to the language. The women instinctively know that. They know as long as you can't be fooled, you're gonna be instinctively drawn to learn the language. It's gonna happen.
You think that's something that'll come naturally?
It has to. You can't study Nuwapu and not be drawn to Nuwapu. And it's the other way around too. Once you learn the language, the language is gonna make you automatically use Nuwapu. So it's going from now you having to consciously use Nuwapu to talk to somebody to it being a subconscious function by knowing the language. You're tapping into a different level of understanding now. Or
right,
overstanding.
Because like growing up in the Ansar Allah community, Pops always wanted us to focus on the language. The information was more for the outside world.
Yeah, because he knew once y'all got a grasp of the languages, the more definitions you know, the less likely you are to be deceived. Why you think all of his texts, he didn't just give you the information, he showed you the transliteration, the translation, and then he told you what it really means versus the implied meaning. A lot of translation get lost with the implication of the native speaker not being able to be carried over the literal word of the translator.
So
it's like little ways that in Leo talk that you could, like for instance, Psalms 91, Psalms 119. One is in Leo, one is in Key. You can feel the difference in them when you read the verses.
Yeah, you can, because there's two different tones, two different frequencies, two different vibrations.
Now, a person that doesn't know enough to distinguish that will be trapped.
Why is that?
Because they can't tell that these are two different people. They think it's the same one God from Genesis to Revelation. They don't know that it's a pantheon of individuals jumping around playing shuffle me up to try to hide which one is who. They had a steady one-upmanship of trying to get. Enlil thing is he want all of the hearts of the people to be focused on him as Yahweh or Jehovah. Enki thing is he wants you to know that on your inner self, and what's encoded in you through the Anunnaki DNA is higher awareness and ascension abilities. Enlil don't want you to ascend because you won't have to worship a God outside yourself. As long as he compels you to worship a God outside yourself, he can subjugate you. Enki is telling his people, which was the sign in the Zulu, don't listen to that bullshit. Listen to what your inner self tell you, because prime sources speak through you through the ether, the nine ether. Activate the nine ether and subjugate the chaos and use it to your greatest advantage. Enlil don't want that.
Can you go into Anu versus non-ether and El Kalum? Because even though Anu is called the Most High, and I understand it, people think that Anu created the universe, but that's not so.
Well, Anu won his throne in hand-to-hand combat against Iliu. So that tells you he wasn't the prime creator. His position is the executive leader of the Galactic Council. That's what makes him the Most High. Out of all of the males on the Galactic Council, he's most loved, most respected. And when he got trapped down here, when Enlil made his bid for power on Earth, he tried to take Earth from Enki and Inanna. Inanna is a title, not a name. So when he made his move for the throne, Anu had already told him Earth is a mitochondrial planet and women rule first. He didn't like that, and that's what caused all of this chaos we see now between patriarchy and matriarchy, was the works of Enlil trying to push the patriarchal agenda on a matriarchal planet, and it caused the chaos we see, the disruption. It's everything is going against the natural order. The natural order of Earth is matriarchal, right? I don't personally give a damn about either one of them. I want the power to go where the power belongs, because then the machine run the way the machine is supposed to.
Absolutely.
And if the machine run the way that it's supposed to, Earth is heavy.
So let's elaborate a little bit on the matriarchal society or the matriarchal rulership, and why brothers are not really in tune with
Let me touch on Anu a little bit more, because a lot of people are like, why don't you talk more about Anu?
Well, yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Anu is like the old man sitting at Big Mama house on the porch that she married to.
Yeah.
He don't give a fuck what nobody do. As long as Big Mama not upset, he cool. When Big Mama get upset, then he gonna send all of them boys that's working out in the barn and in the field to go into town and find out why Big Mama not happy. That's
Right.
where we at right now.
Right.
All of the masters in the history of Earth is reincarnated at the close of the age to close out any remaining or residual conjures, in order, because you can't close the age and open a new age with the same old clothes on.
Right.
Right. So all that stuff had to be cleaned up. And Anu is the one who sanctions it at the end. Clean it up. She said, Big Mama said, clean it up, clean it up. And then he say, well, Enlil started this shit trying to overthrow Enki. So then who is the next heir in line? And they came to Tahuti, or what they call in the text, Dinigajita.
Ningishita. Yeah.
Yep. So his turn comes on as remember the story of Loki being the son of the Ice Princess?
Yes.
That's the story of Ninigajita never being allowed to test his grit to see if he can claim the seat. If there was no male galactic seat for Earth until Enlil tried to take power, then they opened up seat 50 for Earth, for what we call, that's the God seat of heaven and earth on Earth. So when the galactic seat 50 opens up, now we have a person that has to come from the 40th seat, which is the Queen of Heaven and Earth seat, in order to claim it. And then he's got to have the bloodline of one of the boys, Enlil or Enki, on the father's side. And then he got to have the bloodline or the mitochondrial rulership right from the motherline, which would be the Queen of Heaven and Earth seat. Then once he get to the opportunity to seize power, then he get put to the test to see if he can control his Shakti his divine feminine and divine masculine simultaneously. And the only way this is possible is supreme balance. And the only way you can find supreme balance is you have to find a counterpart to balance off of. And the women always, the mother picked the heir's wife, his consort, his number one. The queen mother picks the queen. He don't got no say until he interact with her to determine if she what his mama recognized him to be with. At some point, he gonna realize that they've been holding whole conversations and meetings in his face, behind his back, using him as a go-between for information. So they've been talking to each other without never seeing each other, psychically, using him as the connector through his heart chakra. So Anu only want this shit to be put back the way it's supposed to be. He don't care who win, who lose, as long as the shit done right, by the book, by the rules. So the only thing he's there for is to make sure that them boys that's having the family feud don't get involved in stopping the transition by using nefarious means. And they didn't like that. Well, Enlil didn't. So when Anu got caught down here, so everybody knows, if you go to Japan, those are his people. Anu, A-I-N-U, they are his people, and they would send delegations to Kemet and to where we call the great temple of Quetzalcoatl in Mexico.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl. Yeah.
So that's where they would go to be educated as priests of Anu, or the Most High. And his instructions is to do what's right by the laws of righteousness and restore the balance to nature. That's it. That's his only order. He ain't get no more orders than that. Most of the rules and regulations we go by are Enlil's.
He's more, Enlil is more militant.
Right. So when you see all of these streets and straight lines and regimented, that's Enlil's creation. And Inky is more with the concentric circles to the center and using the most vile soldiers out at the further reaches to keep anybody from getting in. And when you go back and read about Atlantis, you see that's the structure of the cities.
Absolutely.
Concentric circles to a center. We used to keep the matriarchs in the center, right? And the matriarchs kept the children with them, and then all of the soldiers in ranks would spread out to the furthest reaches of the city. So by the time you get to the inner city, if you can make it that far, you're a bad motherfucker. But it's all about different thinking patterns. So if you see the straight lines, you know that's linear logic. When you see the concentric circles, you know that's right brain abstract.
So why is it that brothers have a problem with the women coming to power and breeding the patriarchal
They don't
society?
they don't understand matriarchy, but feminism is their understanding of matriarchy. Feminism is not matriarchy. Feminism is patriarchy with women in the place of men.
Absolutely.
Matriarchy is predicated upon the care and maintenance of children for the future, because we see the children as the future in the matriarchy. But in the patriarchy, it's a dog eat dog, best man for itself, every man go your way.
Selfishness, individuality.
Right. And that's what Enlil brought. That's why they confounded the languages in Babel in order to be able to conquer the vastness of the globe. They couldn't do it using one language because we would all speak the same language. It would take us no time to all get online with the same, hey, this is motherfucker don't belong here. But when you got different languages and you need translators to communicate across language barriers, then you can't quite see what you up against. But yeah, they scared of the matriarchy because under patriarchy, men is subjugated women and children and other men. And they feel that under the matriarchy, a woman is going to subjugate them. Women don't think like men. And that's the problem with most men is they expect a woman to behave and think like men when they in power, when the difference in matriarchy and patriarchy is this. Patriarchy is conquest at all costs. Matriarchy is be, but just be your best self. That's the difference.
So do you think that there is a specific qualification of the women that form like a matriarchal council, or how would you expound on that?
Well, one, they don't hold elections. That's the first thing you got to understand. The whole election thing that we've been seeing is a dog and pony show. It's a selection process and a survey. Under the matriarchy is predicated up on the work you do to earn your position. Most loved, most respected, moves highest in the society. So if you constantly doing shit that keep your ass getting lumped upside the head by motherfuckers, it's gonna be a while before you be able to get your position.
So who do we elect, female-wise?
We don't elect them. The women show love and respect to each other. And the woman that has the most matriarchs respect is the highest ranked matriarch.
She becomes the female Anu.
On earth, yeah. And right now, most loved, most respected on the matriarchs with the blood ties to the land is Mother Khadijah from the Farrakhan wife.
Why is that?
Because she is the most loved and most respected of the matriarchs. She got more matriarchs under her direct call than any other woman on earth. That she could pick the phone up and call them and say, I need you to bring your clan. They gonna bring the whole fucking clan. Nobody on earth got more matriarchs ready to move at a moment's notice than she do.
Damn. So does it matter if we all do not subscribe to the same ideology and doctrine?
It don't matter. You under matriarchy, you can believe whatever you want to believe as long as you respect the respectable. You don't have to believe the nation doctrine in order to recognize who the women pick as the woman that they love the most. So imagine this. You got a house with 5 sisters in it, right? And them sisters is going to 4 of those sisters is going to have more love for one of the sisters than they do for the other 4 or the other 3. So she, in them 5, she becomes the default leader they all love and respect. Because you got to have the love and adoration of the people in order to move in positions in the matriarchy. That's how you keep a despot out of position.
So how should we teach the people to view Anu?
I wouldn't teach them to view him no kind of way. Because I knew want everybody to recognize, the same as Inky, he want them to recognize their inner God. He don't want them to worship or kiss his ass. That's Enlil shit. And Anu wants you to know that there is a part of God in you that through self-discipline and training, you can be your own God and manifest your own life. That's what they call living your best life. The life you work for to create is your best life. The life that somebody gave you and you miserable living it is not your best life. Sometimes you are more happy living in the dirt by yourself, feeding goddamn wild animals than you do being a rock star on stage in front of thousands of people.
That's absolutely correct, because that don't necessarily bring you happiness. It brings you attention, not necessarily happiness.
So when you know what you want out of life, like I don't want shit. All I want is my children not to have to go through the shit we went through. That's the only want that I have. And that want ties back to a righteous endeavor to stop our children from warring against each other because somebody on the outside told them they was enemies.
How would you say that we should appeal to the youth now that gangbanging has become the new age religion for them?
First of all, it's a difference in the gang culture from what's really going on and what the media report. The media is only going to villainize the ones that they can villainize. Most gang members never even get talked about in the news. The majority, 99% of them for that matter. And of that 99% that never get talked about 50% of them never catch a case.
Okay.
Right. So it's like the police. You don't never know about how bad the police is until they put them on the news. Because the people are taught by the system, the police job is to serve and protect. But we who come from under a military-controlled environment know their real job is to keep us in bondage and servitude. They was created to catch slaves. As a slave-catching mechanism, the police was created. Most of us don't know. We didn't have no prisons and we didn't have no police over here before Columbus landed. We didn't need them.
So it's basically a way to keep us subjugated.
Yeah. So all of the ones they call gang leaders is actually the leaders of the tribes. The tribes, nature forms the tribe. We adhere to nature and we click with our tribe.
How does can you explain a little bit about the forming of the tribes through organic means in nature?
Yeah, humans pack animals. And the nature of a pack animal, birds of a feather flock together. Lions don't run with hyenas. Hyenas don't run with wild dogs. And none of them motherfuckers run with zebras and gazelles, right? They all know their place when nature tell them where they belong. Lions eat zebras, gazelles. Wild dogs eat zebras and gazelles. Hyenas eat zebras and gazelles. Now you have predator and prey already determined by species. The human is a pack animal too, but we are a pack animal with a higher consciousness than the lesser animals. And our ability to follow the rules of nature is what separate us from the lower animals and our ability to deviate. It's rare that an animal in its natural environment go against its natural innate qualities, what we call the nature of the thing. The human is the only animal on earth that can blatantly break from its true nature and adopt a foreign nature. That's why you see humans raised with animals behave like an animal. But an animal raised with a human don't behave like a human. A dog still do dog shit, cats still do cat shit.
Right, because humans are endowed with a certain quality of reasoning and animals are governed by what we call instinct of subjectivity. They're just
But if you really watch the animals, their level of reasoning is far more advanced than we give them credit for. And also their ability to use psychic means in their natural environment. For example, 15 lionesses going to hunt a wildebeest. They in the grass that's 8 feet high. On all fours, none of these motherfuckers is over 3 feet, 4 feet tall. Now, they all in the grass and they all moving at 50 to 25 yards from each other. Now, here come the motherfucking wildebeest, right? All of the lions know exactly which one they about to get without ever looking at each other. That's telepathy at play. But we don't acknowledge that because we want to be so much superior to the animals, right? Where you see animals adopting orphans in nature, humans get upset. I don't want that little bad motherfucker around me. It's a baby. he ain't no bad motherfucker till you teach him to be that way. And by constantly telling them that he's a bad motherfucker, the ego you create is a bad motherfucker. So now it determines on how he perceived bad and motherfucker, how he react to that as a development of his ego. So we had to change the meaning of bad to meaning good. So that when they called our children bad in their educational system, in a psychological way, we influence them to believe that, oh yeah, I'm a bad motherfucker. Versus, I'm a bad motherfucker. It's a different energy attached to it in order to change the psychological dynamic and the impact on the child. So now when the rap song, we can say we the baddest motherfucker and we can talk about all of the dirty shit, but we don't really mean it that way. We just giving a message out.
It's just based on expression.
Mm-hmm. Now notice he's using the same language, but the intention has been changed in order for it to affect the organism different.
How would you explain that the Riskians or the Anunnaki views or perceives non-ether?
They got a higher scientific understanding than we do. They've been doing this shit thousands of years before us. So their understanding is so much greater than ours, and their ability to use it is so much stronger. But the human, when the human learns it, is the most powerful creature in the known universe. That's why they tried to keep it away from us for so long. To activate that divine feminine, divine masculine, a single individual is the same as setting an atomic bomb off, right, in the realm of the soul. This individual becomes something greater than its sum total of parts. We human alien hybrids on Earth. Some of the original humans was flash frozen in Antarctica, and they thawed them out, and them was some powerful motherfuckers. And we more powerful than them when we come online. But the problem is there was used religion, politics, and sociological means to keep us from ever tapping into higher consciousness and coming all the way active, because you can't be subjugated in your God form. You can't be oppressed in your God form. In your God mind, nobody can say anything to shake you, because everybody got a right to say what the fuck they want to say, and I got a right not to give a fuck.
Absolutely. So let's go here with it. Let's say, for example, you have a community of children in the new educational system and being educated in Nuwabic in the rote system. How will that actually benefit us?
We're not using rote knowledge no more in the new system. The new system is open air method, described by Neely Fuller, and the teaching method won't be rote. It will be based in phonetics and accelerated learning programs at every level of learning.
So
like,
when you say phonetics, you're talking about the pronunciation of words.
Yes.
Letters.
Right. Rote knowledge is look, see. Right. So we're gonna activate the right brain to work with the left brain instead of turn the right brain off. That's the major difference in the new educational development. Children should have to have enough time to want to learn something. And we don't give them the time to want to learn something before we submerge them into a miseducation system. The whole education system is designed for two purposes: to auction off your child. In other words, to send them on parade on the auction block of slavery. And the other one is to produce workers. And if you don't come out of it, excuse me, if you don't come out of it as a functional worker, they got a place called prison that they put you in as the waste product. It's just like any other manufacturing process. The educational system is designed to miseducate you in order to make you able to be subjugated. You can't subjugate a person that's trained under the programs of something like Mensa. Mensa get the kids that you can't control. And they form their own network.
So how will a class system exist in the new world?
Not like we know it. It's gonna boil down to this. Under the matriarchal system, you can be as great as you want to be or don't want to be. Your greatness level will depend on the effort you put in to develop your greatness. It's just that's kind of like now, the ones who work the hardest, reach the greatest reward if they know what they're working for. But under the system we under now, the ones that work the hardest always work for somebody else. You can't never really see the true benefit of your labors under this system. It's designed to steal your residuals at every level.
Okay, so besides Louis Farrakhan's wife, who would be second in line in the matriarchal society?
I'm not sure, because a lot of the elder sisters who could have been as respected have passed on. Like Ava just passed. So she gotta have the blood too. She gotta have the blood ties to the land, organic to the land, and she gotta be most loved, most respected. And some of these sisters is powerful, but we haven't seen them enough making the connections to know who the second is. Don't mean they're not making them. We haven't seen it. We've seen the connections that Mother Candice's made around the world. Like, I could tell you people that's sisters around the world, females that signed off on her, that had millions of followers, like Winnie Mandela or Imelda Marcos, right? I could go on. It's the wife of several of the wives of Muammar Gaddafi, love her to death. So everywhere she go, her effect is the same on the sisters she meet. That's elders in the community, and they all give her a stamp of approval. It's not just us. It's global. For our matriarch to be able to claim the high matriarchy, she had to be globally accepted, not just locally accepted.
Right.
Over here, it might be an entirely different one just for this land. But for the one that's for the world, the one who got the most respect globally, it would be her.
So we won't have to worry about militants and a matriarchal society?
Won't have to be worried about what?
Militants.
Militant is military minded. And the only difference under the matriarchy is everybody is military minded, because we all looking to protect the children like a pack of lions.
So will there be a need for a military then?
Probably a fucking mystic military. We're not gonna be blowing each other up with bombs and shooting each other with guns. That shit is that's so old-fashioned warfare. That's the oldest warfare known to creation. Blowing each other up. That's primitive as can be. And that's why it's used. It's rooted in ignorance.
Absolutely, I agree. So let's talk this real quick. I see that between the European people and the desert Eurocentric Arabs, all of them want to rule the world. Where will Islam be in the new world?
Passe. All religions is gone. Religion is a control mechanism for political purposes. It has nothing to do with spiritual development. We're going to literally, the new educational system is going to teach you how to bring your spiritual self online where you don't need a religion.
I know that's right.
And just for them Arabs watching that might want to know, I'm that little nappy head motherfucking raisin head boy that they said that y'all niggas gonna listen to in the end.
That's crazy because there's so many people that's just, so in the process of waking our brothers and sisters up to the information, which is really to get them on the alchemy of the language and the letters, what type of method or approach do you suggest to get them on the language and the alchemy of the letters so that we can raise their vibrational frequencies?
Ooh, right now, man, it's a lot of people ain't gonna make it. There's too many people right now rooted in the ignorance to even answer that question.
Damn.
They so ignorant that they can't even see a full-blown stage show playing out its politics in their face. So really, we had to focus on the youth, and the youth is the ones who gonna learn. They're gonna be willing to learn by nature. And they're not gonna accept the same bullshit we accepted. They gonna call the grown folks on their bullshit. We just gotta make sure the grown folks don't abuse the child for calling them on their bullshit.
Right, because I noticed this. I was talking to a sister, and her take on it was, well, in order to get the children, you have to get the women. But paradoxically speaking, the gangs didn't go to mothers to get their soldiers or their followers. They actually took what we call occupationally orphaned children. An occupationally orphaned child is a child where the mother and father is outside of the household the majority of the day, and the TV, the school, and the neighborhood pretty much raise the child. So you can go to children nowadays and get them on it without ever having to talk to their parents. But the question then becomes, well, where does the women come in with that in the matriarchal society? Because you may be communicating a message to their children that particular parent disagrees with.
Watch this. It don't matter what a motherfucker think. When these sisters get up there and say, we just took this bitch over, watch how the women react different. Women that was harlots in the club giving coochie away, gonna go clean themselves up instantly. Because what we don't realize, there's something called the mitochondrial effect of raising a matriarchy that changes the entire psychological makeup of every woman involved. And every woman is automatically involved because they can pass on mitochondrial affect the mitochondria in the men. And when that happens, the men are going to have to change from their effeminate ways because the women is going to find that unacceptable, and the masculine men is going to also find it unacceptable.
Okay, so what about relationship constructs? This is another question that one of the brothers had asked me, and a few of the sisters that's in poly relationships. How will relationships be constructed and accepted by the matriarchal council?
In matriarchy, the most worthy man is the man that's most worthy, period. And the women get to pick their sister wives in the matriarchy. Under patriarchy, the poly lifestyle is the men go pick a bunch of women and have a bunch of kids, and the women don't get along. That's the dumbest shit in the world to me.
Sure is.
The women got to pick each other. And they got a method of picking each other and weeding each other out. Right? And as long as you don't know what you want, that's exactly what you're going to get. Relationships, everybody worried about relationships. Am I going to be in a poly relationship? I can't be like, that's all rooted in jealousy and inadequacy and low self-esteem. It ain't got nothing to do with you grown ass people. We done lived our life. We done our dirt. We done shot our wad. It's time for the youth. everything in the matriarchy is geared around the rearing of the children because that's the future. The relationship is geared around teaching the child how to live their best life, giving them the tools to create their life. If the tools to create their best life entails them learning telepathy, I'm teaching it. If it entails them learning psychometry, I'm teaching it. If it entails them being able to manipulate matter with their mind, I'm gonna teach it. Because that's what's best for the future. We only think about today, right now. Right? And we don't know what happened yesterday. Half us can't remember what we had for breakfast 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Right? Because we don't watch the long game and we ain't too keen on watching the short game. To watch the long game, you can look deep into history and see far into the future. You know that if something don't change, then something got to give. And when it gives without the change, it gives in a negative fashion. But if you find a route to the change, then you can control the explosion of the future being born.
So what would be the type of political system, if any? Communism, socialism, or will it represent something new that doesn't fit in those categories of socialism, communism, and capitalism?
The politics is matriarchy. Matriarchy override all that bullshit. The men is not going to tolerate a democracy. They're not going to tolerate a republic. They're not going to tolerate a communism. Communism is tribalism, taking the family out of the equation causes it to fall apart.
Yeah, it's extreme as hell.
Not really. It's tribalism without the family dynamic, and that's what causes the problems. It was tribalism with only the chief being able to benefit and all of us braves being able to suffer. Well, that's not under matriarchy, that won't be tolerated. Everybody got to have access to their own best life scenario, but you have to teach them how to want more for themselves. Suicide is at an all-time high because we teach low self-esteem as a form of education. Low self-esteem is hardwired into the educational system.
Give an example of that. Can you give an example of how low self-esteem is taught?
Yeah. You don't matter when you sitting in the back of the class and you don't got on the newest Jordans.
Oh, yeah. Now that's common. That's common.
Right. And they know that different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds is going to converge on the educational system. So they turned us into consumers in order to perpetuate the low self-esteem. He who can spend the most money and had the least amount saved up got the highest ranking on the idiot scale of low self-esteem. So you go out, you ain't got $100 in the bank, but you spend $140 on some gym shoes.
That's dumb as hell.
But that's what we doing. We consumers now.
Here's a very... Go ahead.
That's what's contributing to the low self-esteem, a consumer. You have to be a consumer because look, if you don't have low self-esteem, you don't give a fuck if the gym shoes cost $5 or $500 as long as they look neat, clean, and fresh. When you got low self-esteem, you got to keep up with the Joneses. And the Joneses got to keep up with the Combses.
Well, here's a question that I've been asked, and I do find that this needs to be conveyed, but in reality, I don't think that there is a generalized answer. But the question is, how do we know that the matriarchal system won't become tyrannical or chauvinistic?
Because it's a history, thousands and thousands of years before patriarchy, that attests to them They never needed prisons under matriarchy. We was matriarchal before Columbus came. We still had, disagreements, but we had a different way of solving problems than we do now.
Right.
Our whole understanding of life was different because we lived from a different psychological dynamic. So the matriarchy has never been a tyrannical government style, and it never produced tyrants. Because it's always, even if Mother Khadijah is the highest ranked matriarch on the land, guess what? She still got to have at least 72 matriarchs that she got to answer to if she should give out a fucked up order. Right. Not one, she got at least 72. That's where the whole 72 elder idea come from.
Oh, okay. So let's address this. Let's address Big Mama. Everybody wants to know, that's been listening to your lives, what is Big Mama, or who is Big Mama?
That's prime creator. That's root energy. We was talking earlier about the Shakti to balance out the melanin chaos.
Right.
That's Big Mama energy does that. We call it mother wit. It comes through the Kabbalah as Sophia. It comes through in Egyptology as Tawaret. Right. It comes through as the native culture as the Great Mother. And the Great Mother is always accompanied by the Great Father in the organic cultures over here in the Americas, right? And we call the Great Father he who walks the sky, the Great Skywalker, right? The old man of the sky, the old man of the forest, the old man river. That's all the same energy. But the energy of the masculine is contingent upon the support of the feminine energy. Big Mama energy is the energy that says, this man right here is a good man. And so I'm going to give him the highest rank. It's the energy that tells the pack how to form. It's the energy that tells the man what woman love him for real versus the one that's trying to get over on him and suck his life away. That's Big Mama energy. All it is the great expression of prime creator energy that we can read in nature by understanding nature.
What is the difference between Big Mama and non-ether?
That's the same energy. That's the same energy. Big Mama is non-ether energy. When we're talking about ether utopia, the Ethiopian, the great dark mother, that's her.
So non-ether is actually feminine.
Feminine hostile. It's not just feminine. You got to add the hostile to it because when we start talking about the queen of heaven and earth, now we're talking about what we call Oshun energy, which is healing and prosperous energy of the feminine. And it's more soothing and relaxing. Big Mama energy in its raw form will fuck you up. So you ever read in the Bible when it say that self-accusing spirit will rise up and whoop you? The self-accusing spirit is Big Mama. And it comes directly through your mitochondrial as the fuel source to life for organic organisms on Earth.
Say that one more time.
It comes directly through mitochondria as the fuel source of organic life on Earth.
So, okay, with that being said, because we've been taught extensively about mitochondrial DNA in the tab, can you give us a clear, concise, and comprehensive way to view mitochondrial DNA?
Well, when you look in a cell, you have a DNA helix and you have a mitochondrial DNA cell in the center of the cell. The DNA, mitochondrial DNA, actually is the fuel source for the entire DNA helix. It's the fuel source for all the cells. It's the actual energy that's the step down capacitor to keep you from being a neutron star. So
Okay.
you would take a whole star and the mitochondria will be a step down capacitor for that star to be sentient in a human body.
Okay. So in other words,
It's the fuel. It's the fuel of life. And that's why the Galactic Council, that's why I knew told Enlil about the mitochondria. Matter of fact, if you read in Zechariah Extensions about the book of Enki, I forgot what the name of it is. It's like the life of Enki or something, but he talked about in there and knew describing mitochondrial to Enlil.
Right.
And Anu laughed at Enlil because he thought the Y chromosome was superior to the mitochondrial, and that should give him the right to rule Earth. And that's what caused all of the conflict that they saying there was a war in heaven, and Michael, which is a title, which is the leader of the military contingent of Nibiru, Michael, went to war with Lucifer is not who they say he is. And they changing the positions because Lucifer is a feminine enlightenment. We call Inanna energy, but they replaced it with what Enlil did. Enlil is the one who rebelled and got cast. Well, he didn't get cast to the earth. He came to the earth. They keep saying, like they call in the Anunnaki in the Bible, Nephala, those who failed. Did none of those angels fall? They all came down here. And the motherfuckers came down here fighting. So the mitochondrial energy, the woman can adjust it in the man to turn his higher consciousness on. But the man will take a lifetime trying to do it on his own.
That's why one of the sayings of now today, all strong men need a strong woman. Because when you really look back at ancient societies, it was the goddesses that was making them niggas gods. It wasn't the gods ordaining them as goddesses. It was the goddesses making them into gods.
Well, that ties back into the writings of Baruch Shango, that he wrote the book, African Woman, the Original Guardian Angel. The women are called kingmakers. If she has a good grasp of herself and her ability to adjust the mitochondria just by being, it's more complicated than that, but to simplify it, she becomes a kingmaker because she turns on and turns up at stages the mitochondrial in her mate. So when the mother picked your mate for you, you thinking that you going wherever you going looking for a woman that you picking her. No, she's not going to pay you any attention unless your mother give her the call through the heart chakra. Some of them is just training and some of them is the real deal. And you won't never know until you wake all the way up, and then you can read the signs that told you who's who and what's what.
So when we going about picking our mates, how would you advise the brothers and sisters of a methodology that may be in line with something that's more, proper to do as improper to do?
The easiest thing to tell them is don't look for her, she'll come find you. And you will know when she finds you because you will feel something that you didn't feel before. I don't look for women, but they find me at the right time. And like I tell them, if you see me sitting across the couch from you, that's not no accident.
What you tell her that ain't no accident?
No, because I don't have a regular conversation. I don't have a regular approach, and I ain't the regular nigga. So if you see yourself sitting across the couch from me, that's some motherfucking high rank shit right there. You a bad motherfucker.
Boy, you hell. Rod Hayes, y'all. Rod Hayes back in the building, giving it up once again. So, all right, so let's go here. Out of all of the years that Pops have been doing all of this, and out of all of the people who have come along the path to be practitioners of the protocols of Nuwabu, how many of those in the community are still left that's still aware in this capacity?
I couldn't tell you that answer right there, because I do know this. All of the ones that was living off Baba without his consent, they got an answer for that shit. All the ones who thought they was gonna steal the scrolls and write their own version of it and get away with that shit, they got an answer for that shit, but they don't got an answer to me. And Pops might send them to a motherfucker with zero mercy. If he send you to somebody with zero mercy, a dreaded judge, a judge dread, and you did that shit, you might lose your head. Literally. This is the cleanup. All of the dirty motherfuckers has got to get cleaned up.
Damn, that's some gang shit. Like, that's how the brothers in the streets look at it.
Remember Farrakhan did a speech talking to the gangs and told them how the fuck how y'all gonna be the army of the righteous and y'all killing each other?
Right.
Y'all the army of the righteous, the Crips, the Bloods, the Vice Lords, the Blackstones, the GDs, the BDs, the Four Corner Hustlers, the MS-13, the Locos, the Latin Kings, the Latin Counts. Y'all the army of the righteous. That ain't no mistake. That's not by accident. We the tribes, we the clans from the land, on the land, and we didn't even know that we was being turned against each other by foreign forces. Now we know. And this shit ain't working no more. When you see Baba, you're going to see Chapo with him. You're going to see Larry Hoover with him. You're going to see Jeff Ford with him. They all coming. All of the ones that you're going to see people that you thought was dead, they going to be coming with Baba. So all of the ones out there that think that they, we Sabians now and we don't have to listen to what Pop's saying from in there, he's still writing scrolls, you silly asses.
They said that some people said that basically that Pop sanctioned the Sabians, but I've been instructed.
I don't care what they say. The only one can tell me who he sanctions is him. So when he get home, we gonna have this conversation in private in family business. This is a family business thing between the Sabians and the Nuwapian Nation, and the final motherfucking mallet drop with Malachi York. The rest of them can say he sanctioned this and he sanctioned that. All that he said, she said shit go out the window when you got the man in your face.
Yeah.
Because when he asked him, okay, when did I sanction that? Did you got it in writing or did I tell you on the phone? Because if I told you on the phone, the Department of Corrections got it recorded. If I said it in writing, I can tell you if it's my handwriting.
Right. That part.
So I that don't have nothing to do with me. I don't have to clean nobody's house up. I just got to tell you who the leader of the house is.
Right.
So all of the dirty Moors, they got to answer Angel Bay, and he not happy. Ooh. He been locked up over damn near 50 years like Larry. Ain't now one of them happy. I don't have to clean that shit up. They got the grand governing body of the Moors know exactly what I'm talking about. The dirty Moors is all on file with the grand body from motherfucking the community complaining to the grand body. Who is this grand sheik over here stealing our money? They know. I don't have to clean that shit up. I just had to tell y'all they came in as conquistadors, 32 degree Scottish Rite Freemasons under the Albert Pike motherfucking morals and dogma, and they changed George Washington so that you don't know that the George Washington was the Albert Pike, and that they the same motherfucker, and that's where they can change the Constitution and move the Constitution. They can move the Constitution from Philadelphia, which was the capital east of the Appalachian Mountains, of that territory, which was separate from everything west of the Appalachians. And then when they crossed the Appalachian Mountains, then they violated the motherfucking ordinances that allowed them to settle on the east coast of the states. When they did that, they've done that under the Louisiana Purchase, when they sent Lois and Clark, and Big Ben Bay was their translator, and they sent them across the land to go inspect the castles, and found out we wasn't there because we was all fighting Gullah wars in the land of the flowers we call Florida. But back then it was the whole southeastern United States, what we call Georgia, Arkansas, North and South Carolina, and all of that was the land of flowers, but they reduced it to what we could see today as Florida. And the capital down there was Mar-a-Lago, but we don't know none of this shit about our history. So they gonna have to answer to who they gotta answer to. I'm just telling y'all who the dirty motherfuckers was.
Word, because that's where I live at. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm originally from Jersey, but I grew up in Brooklyn past.
Mm-hmm.
And I live down here, and Pop's got roots down here. He sent us down here to run the bookstores, and I don't really, deal with a lot of the people that's still in the bookstore. It's different, and I've been instructed not to even speak on it. But, yeah, man, this has been a good session, huh?
Yeah, like I said, that's family business. Baba gonna straighten it out when he get home, and all of the dirty players bend over and kiss your ass goodbye right now. He know who they is.
Yeah.
Look, when Enlil made his move for Earth, you remember they changed the name of Nibiru to Marduk, right?
Right.
Baba was the Marduk sent to claim Nibiru to keep Enlil from sending his kids to sack Nibiru when he attacked the Earth.
Right.
He had his son Marduk. Enlil had a son named Marduk, named after Baba, who he called from minding his own business, doing his God shit somewhere else, because it's his son. He pulled rank on him and said, "We finna take Earth." His Enlil's son Marduk didn't want to be here in the first goddamn place, but because his father got caught up in this light lock and he had to come down here and hold the reins, Baba had to go secure Nibiru. We on Earth knew when Nibiru was secure when they changed the name. Now we can go to war.
Got you. So it's funny. I'm gonna ask you your take on this, because my mother actually gave me the attribute of Messiah Nanorta Naya Al Mahdi. So could you explain to people who Nanorta was?
I think that's your job.
Well, I know, but I don't. The elders got me on strictly language, so I don't explain doctrine. That's why I call you. I don't teach doctrine.
But
all
look,
I teach is the Wabic. That's
remember,
the instructions and the assignment I've been given, and I'm sticking to it.
So you remember Baba say when Sananda come, he gonna tell you what the name means. Right. So it's one of those scenarios. That's something that when you teach the language, it's gonna come up, and you're gonna have to elaborate on it more.
Got you. Well, I know what it means because it's my name. So
I know. And Sananda means divine love.
Yep. So I got about 2 more questions, then I'm gonna let you go because I don't want to tire you out. I know you got a whole day ahead.
I don't get tired till I close my eyes.
Phone up right. I got sisters blowing my phone up right now. I can't log into the chat. If you can log into the chat, we can answer, because I've asked all the questions that they've been asking me, but I don't quite know
what's the YouTube page?
Non-Nation Media. But see, it's hard to get on that page. So what I got to do is I have to actually send you the link. I'm doing it right now. For some reason, when you type in my YouTube page, it doesn't take you right there. All right, I just sent it to you.
Will you send it on
Messenger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see me, but I don't see the live chat.
Probably I would have to do it from my phone, but I can't. With the internet in my neighborhood is out, so all I could do is use my phone.
Hold on, I'm gonna figure it out. Give me 1 second.
Let me hit the sister up and see what she's saying.
I told you I was gonna find it.
You got it?
Okay, which sister is you talking about first?
Sister Rhonda.
Okay, let me see if I can find her comment in here.
It should be Rhonda Williams. I don't know if the other sister Nefera Bay. I said Bay. I'm sorry, sis. Nefera Ba. She was supposed to be tuning in also, but a lot of the questions came from the sister Rhonda, and she just was calling my phone.
Yeah, I don't see her. I don't see nobody named Rhonda in here.
All right. Well, they gotta. I don't ask most of the questions that they've been talking to me about. So,
Christ the Great Silver Tree is a Q&A time. Yep, Q&A time. Tracy say interesting about protocols. Was just reading over the protocols out of the Cape Town Convention System and the new territory or the new treaties protocols. Not familiar with them documents she's talking about.
right. Also, family, I'm gonna drop the brother Cash App in the comment section if y'all want to show the brother some love. Also, we are trying to build this Nuwabian school and get this language out. Y'all heard it loud and clear from the brother Rod Hayes. He said that Nuwapic is where we need to be, and that's why I'm doing my job as ordained and appointed by the fourth elder, Brother Love. So y'all,
that's the language we're gonna be moving to on the turnaround. That's gonna be being taught in all education around the world.
And I'm going head first. I'm head first with.
Yeah, so you're gonna be the one who's gonna be part of writing the curriculum with Baba.
Yeah, I already know. Brother Love already done put me in the game, and
He the music teacher.
Huh?
He gonna be the music teacher.
Oh yeah, he nice with it. He done already told me about his skills and ability. Brother Love is a good brother, man. And we will have the Brother Love on a live, giving his perspective on Saturday. Some things came up, so we had to move it to Saturday. We were supposed to do it today, but it's going to be Saturday if all goes well. So I'm gonna ask this. Right now, I'm on the internet, on the social media, and I'm definitely using all the social media outlets. Even though I never really liked it because I have to learn too much about technology. So I've been given, an extensive instruction on how to convey the message through social media. I'm on TikTok. Y'all can subscribe to or follow me on TikTok to learn Nuwabic at Learning Nuwabic with Messiah. On Instagram called Learning Nuwabic. It's learning_Nuwabic. I'm on Facebook as Messiah Al Mahdi. We have the Learning Nuwabia for Beginners group on Facebook, as well as my YouTube channel, Non-Nation Media. But anyways, so basically, I've been reaching a lot of women, basically. Like most of the participants. Matter of fact, another sister just reached out to me yesterday. She wanted to do some private classes in Nuwabic. it seems like more of the sisters are actually coming over to taking the language serious than the men.
Remember earlier when I said that you was asking about the sisters that wanted to study the new Wapic before they get in, the new Wabu before they go to new Wapic, and I said the sisters is once they realize what it is going to be the ones flocking to the language first.
Yep, you definitely said that.
Yeah, so it just ties back in to what was already said. So the women got a women's intuition that's so underrated, and most women neglect it because the system tell them if they listen to their intuition, they crazy. So they ignore their intuition. No, don't ignore that shit. You can save your life and your loved ones by listening to it. And for a wise man, know the difference between when she intuitively telling you something and when she's controllingly telling you something, because they don't mean the same thing.
Give an example.
If you don't know your woman well enough to know when she's giving you something from the intuition, which is pure, unfiltered spirit information, and when she tell it to you, her expression different, her tone is different, her body language is different. You got to learn that language of listening to the woman, because she gonna save your fucking life.
So explain to the brothers a little bit more in depth about that so that they'll be able to assess, because I've also had another brother who's been in the community. He hasn't lived in the community, but he's been a part of the community for some years. And every time he calls me, he's having problems with his mate as far as, her relating to the information and the culture and stuff.
Look, if he's doing his part and she see him as stable and focused on his goals, all of her resistance in her support of him is going to fade. But if he's unstable emotionally and he's unstable about pursuing his goal, she's going to be unstable in her support. She can't support an unstable building. Absolutely. He the building. He is the building. All of the men we are the Solomon, the soul of man that the temple was being built for. We the temples. She can't support you. So the women is the ones actually sending the good men to teach the good boys how to be good men. And they sending all of the bad boys that ain't gonna never amount to nothing to learn from bad men how to hurry up and destroy themselves so they can get that shit over with.
Get them out the way, so to speak.
Yeah. So Christ, the great silver tree, say, can you explain the Great Wall of China and why was it built? I actually went over that in one of my lives, and I was talking about, it might have been with Young Elder, but Enlil opened a portal to a mirror dimension to get a being that we called the Great Dragon bitch. And when she came with hordes, and they didn't look like us. The Great Wall was to have it's just like the movie The Great Wall with Tom Cruise, only they didn't look like the ones in the movie. They looked like she had wings. She was about 9 feet tall, and she was a biped lizard humanoid thing. She the one who was executed in 2018 living under the Vatican. Inanna came back to personally execute her. I wanted to do it, but shit. Anyway, the Great Wall was built to fight them and harness them into a ravine that we could fight them off. When we started killing them, they started being born looking like melanated humans. The only problem was that they couldn't and still can't breed with us if they wanted them. They can't have children with us. They can only have babies with each other. and they chromosomes is backwards to ours. And they females look male and they males look female. That's why he done it, because he wanted to usurp the throne. And if you even look at the word usurp, it means to go under something. And if you look under the Vatican, it's a whole, what they call throne room to so-called the dragon bitch, the great archon. That's what they talking about. When they talk about the archons, they talking about the ones he opened the portal to allow in. When you look in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he called them the Dark Brothers that he got rid of once, but somebody opened the portal and let him back in. And that he would come back in a distant age in order to get rid of them. Well, this is a distant age, and they getting the fuck out of here. And I don't care where they go, but they can't stay here.
So they can't stay here, huh?
No.
So I was reading some of the comments. Can you explain the difference between the Adamites and the Atumites?
Phonetics. The Adama is where the Adamites come from. And they talk about those who was organic from the earth. Atum was the father of Adam, which is a whole species of what we call Hindus. That's a whole nother bloodline on earth.
Absolutely. So we right now everybody's waiting on Baba to come home so that Pops could actually get us back in tune with the things that we need to be actually doing, which a lot of us like such as brothers like yourself and Rod Hayes, the fourth elder, Brother Love, my mentor, are already doing. What do you want to tell the people that out there that's wondering or confused? What do you think that we can expect, if you can elaborate on that, when the master teacher actually get back?
All we're already talking about, all of the ones that's frauds is going to be put on the spot for their fraud. All of the ones that's thieves is going to be put on the spot for their theft. Look, there's a lot of people that's not people that look like people. Everything that look human ain't human.
Oh, I already know.
A lot of these things that look like us ain't us. They infiltrated at every level of our societies. We know who they all is now, but it took us a long time to know who they are, what they did. Right? We didn't used to take on human form. That's why the human bones only go back so far in the fossil record. We used to incarnate and disincarnate, going up and down the ascension ladder, and we would come to Earth to experience a 3D polarized reality. And then we would ascend back up, and then we would come back down. There was no such thing as death, right? We didn't know what death was. Death is a construct created in order to instill fear in us. All it is they collapsed the fourth dimension into the third dimension when we incarnated to get them off the planet to trap us on the planet. So it was all science. And the science was used in conjunction with conjure in order to trap us in Kingu, the sleep state, or the Kali Yuga, which was artificially induced by one of Enlil's sons, who they call Zuin or Humbaba, who stole the scrolls of destiny, who manifested as Alexander, who went into India to get the scroll of governments to rule the earth.
Right, I remember that because one of the things when I was younger, I used to ask my mother about why was that one of my attributes, and she always referred me to the story of them sending the Norta to go to Zuin to fight the war to get the Tablet of Destinies back and bring it back to the Anunnaki. And the Norta was considered to be the warrior and the brave one that actually performed attacks or went on the assignment.
Mm-hmm. So it was we was all dispatched to different parts of the planet. The elders. And when the elders was dispatched to different parts of the planet, everybody had to find a piece of the puzzle to put this shit back together at the close of the age. And here we are putting this puzzle together.
Right. Reliving it. So another question in here is explain vibration and frequency and the difference and its importance. I think you already went over the importance, but I guess this is a definition question. The definition of frequency and the definition of vibration and how we should interpret those words.
Okay, so frequency is predicated upon points of peaked vibration or sound. It's like a oscillation. Every peak, the level of peaks determines the frequency, which when you trace the word frequency back is how frequent or often, or it's a consistent rate of oscillation. That's the frequency. The vibration is the thing which has the frequency. And the vibration is the movement of the energy. So you measuring the energy by its frequency, and then by knowing the frequency, you know what the vibration is, or the rate in which this energy comes into 3D reality. It's like measuring brain waves. They all got a different frequency and they all on a different, so it's like a radio. You got a whole bunch of radio stations and you can change the dial to a different frequency in order to get a different channel. Every frequency has a different channel. And there's a different broadcast coming on every channel. So when we're talking about vibrations and frequencies, we're talking about sound. It got to be a sound at its root. And the sound is a audio rendition of light. So if you notice certain lasers, when they turn them on, they hiss. Right? That's the sound. That's where they coming in at. On that hiss is telling you where the sound is coming from in frequency and point of origin.
Okay, that's correct. So how does that relate to resonant energy?
Okay, so now go back to the radio. You're not going to get the same channels in Chicago that you pick up in Miami. The resonant frequency is the frequency from a specific area, right? It can only, the sound wave can only rise from this area. It becomes a resonant frequency, or a resident frequency is a better way to look at it.
Why is that?
Because it's only in a certain, it only has a certain reach. And it's just like when you're in a residence, you only live in a certain place.
Right.
So you got an address. When you have a resonant frequency, the resonant is the residence of the frequency, tell you where it comes from. It's like the address.
So some people was reaching out to me. I guess they've been reading certain books that was dealing with the electron. And I'm pretty dope on the comprehension about the electron. But what they were saying was that they consider the electron God.
They can consider whatever they want to consider as God. That's their option as a free will, in a free will universe. But the electron is only part of an atom. You can't have a positive charge without a negative charge and vice versa. But you can have a neutral charge with both of them.
That is correct. So I was speaking with a sister, and I was trying to give her the understanding similar to you as far as vibration and frequency. and that the phenomena that humans call sound is more accurately described as vibration or movement. And, since there is vibration and movement on all scales, from the microcosmic and subatomic to the macroscopic and universal, that there is indeed sound on all scales as well. Just as there is visible light spectrum of electron movement that we can see, there is also audible sound spectrum of movement of vibrations that we can hear. And I was explaining that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to look at when you get to the atom, you take the electron and you got a string of light that's curled up in the ball. They call that the string theory in science.
Right. I'm familiarized with that.
Okay, now, if you stretch the string of light out, the less condensed it is, the different frequency it's going to put out. It's going to change it. The Higgs boson is light literally tied into a knot, which causes it to create the appearance of density.
Right.
Right. So now we're talking God particles, Higgs boson. So what we perceiving is holographically generated, and any part of the hologram is a representation of the whole.
Right. It's like divided into individual parts, but they all contain everything in all the parts.
And that's why they say as above, so below, as within, so without. When I talk about Enlil, Enki, I'm talking about frequencies in reality. I'm talking about vibrations, but I got to put it in the term that we know about.
Right, because I was explaining that to a sister that, and I think she pretty much got heated when I was telling her that basically the way that we were educated in the tab was not the same way that they were educated just by strictly reading the scrolls. And I think she was pretty offended, but I didn't mean it in that way. All I was trying to tell her was that there is a lot of what's called esoteric knowledge inside of the protocols of Nuwabu, right? And when I say esoteric knowledge, I'm talking about anthropomorphism and anthropopathism as a means to give a clear, concise, and comprehensive understanding of complex subject matter, right? It's not literal, it's symbolic, right? These energies are literal, but the actual person that you're talking about may not be literal. And when I tell you she was pissed off, she was pissed off. She was pissed off.
See, but that's because the exoteric and the esoteric is mirror images of each other. And if you are a diligent student, the esoteric will appear as like a leak in the exoteric. So when we study in the higher sciences, we study in at its source dark matter.
Absolutely.
But everything that we tell you in science is a way to understand the dark matter and how it becomes solidified as 3D condensation in the hologram in order to form something that we can experience three-dimensionally.
Right. So back to the electron, because it just a thought came to my mind. So when I was actually having a conversation with the one, well, actually it was two, it was a brother and a sister. I was trying to describe to them that the words electric and electricity both derive from the Greek word electron, and that the word electron is composed of two Greek words, elect, meaning to choose or pick out, which is also related to, the word elite, selected or chosen, and that the word tron is an instrumentive suffix used with a verb to designate something that performs some action. So in this case, something that elects or chooses, for example, the particle that elects to move, and that the etymological root of all of the words, electric, electricity, electron, elect, elite, lecture, and intellect is lexis, as in lexicon, and more specifically, the Greek word or Latin word logos, the spoken word in the Greek philosophy that was designed from the creative utterance word or tone of what we call patah, called who in ancient Kemetic philosophy. And they thought that was just, a little bit more complex. You got a more simplistic way of explaining it.
That sounded pretty simplified form to me.
That's what I thought. Like, it's just like, yo, but I think that sometimes when people are reading, they're reading with intent to not have to go outside of that to be able to validate or, do some research about it themselves. They just want to believe in whatever the book actually said. And to me, from my perspective, that's definitely kind of lazy.
Well, not necessarily, because, like, for instance, I can use the Bible to teach a Christian out of Christianity, and they won't really be as a man-controlled drone as they are under the doctrine of the church.
Right.
The same book can have a different effect when taught at a different angle.
That's because you're going to give different interpretation as you explain and define the words.
Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a Bible and a strong concordance, and every time I tell them something, I'm going to show them what I'm talking about. But the church not going to do that. The church is going to say, and the Lord fed the multitude with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread.
Yeah. And that's not our way of teaching. That's definitely not our way.
And my first thing I tell them is, the first thing you got to understand about the 2 fishes, that's representation of Pisces.
Absolutely.
And then when I tell you about 5 loaves of bread, that's 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness in the Aquarian, in the Piscean age, would have put you above water. But you stuck at 32 minus, which means that you froze. Right. I'm just trying to get you to 33 and you can break free.
Right. But see, that goes back to the esoteric teachings. What you're doing is, when we teach like that, we are actually translating the symbolisms into the reality of what it's actually saying.
Right. Because when you're looking at 12 disciples in the Christ, you're looking at the old civil priests order. But you don't know that because you don't know nothing about the civil priest. That's the average Joe. The civil priest consisted of 12 matriarchs and a grand matriarch. And that's where your Catholic Church got its form and function from. They just put the Pope up there as a drag queen.
You call him a drag queen.
he is. I can't even, what I got to do to show you, everybody see him wearing a dress every day. Yeah. They just didn't know that was the dress code for the civil priestess, and they put the colors in reverse. See, he's supposed to, if he was a woman, he'd be dressed in black instead of white, because he would be representing of the noon. And the nuns, who is they saying is the representative of the noon, would be in white and not black, because they would be representing of the light that came forth from the dark mother. Right. But they switched everything in reverse, and then they turned it upside down, so you can't figure it out. That's our old orders. All of that shit is ancient. They just usurped it because we was familiar with it. Genetic memory recognized the Christ story, but we being taught it wrong, so we don't know what it means. Absolutely.
Well, it's time for us to get out of here, man. I enjoyed you. I'm gonna give a shout out to the young elder. I should be back on his channel doing the WAPIC class on Wednesdays. Shout out to the brother Love, all of the sisters that's actually participating in the WAPIC classes. I commend y'all for your willpower, dedication, and devotion. Keep up with the good work. Shout out to the brother Rod Hayes for giving us that good information all over again, because they was asking for you, man. They was definitely asking.
Well, I'm here. So
right. I done dropped the brother Cash App in the link. Not the link, but the comment section if y'all want to show him some love. and we still trying to build this school. We need to get on the ball so that we can be ready by the time the master teacher get here. Anything you got else to say, bro, before we get out of here?
Just watch what happened. That's all I can tell y'all at this point. We passed trying to tell y'all we got to watch it from here.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a sad song being sung for a lot of people. They just not listening. And like
there's
I told
more
you,
people listening than we know. It's just that the reality of what's happening versus their expectations doesn't match. So they don't know what to do and they froze.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. But nonetheless, we still need everybody, from my perspective, we need everybody active. We need to be together. We all need to be on one.
I think the big wake up is going to be when we see the elders make their appearance to the public.
Yeah, why is that?
A lot of them ain't going to move until they had that shock and awe of the disclosure and shake their consciousness. Some of them that didn't know what to do going to automatically remember at that point. It's a monumental event. It's a life-altering exposure. When you realize that your people been oppressed by some motherfuckers that look like you, that use pale faces to conceal their dirty hands, that's gonna be enough wake-up call for a motherfucker to be like, what the fuck? Because the worst thing I discovered in the self-discovery journey is the white man ain't white. That nigga look like us, but he ain't us. That hurt my feelings more than anything else. How can a motherfucker that look like us do this to us, but they not like us? They just look that way. They infiltrated all our organizations looking like us, talking down on whitey who they put in power.
And another question, I'm glad you mentioned that because I've explained this for the past probably 20-something years, but I want you to give your perspective on it. 6 ether and 3 ether. How would you describe 6 ether?
Can't nobody describe it better than Bubble. 6 ether is ghost. It's the death of 9 ether. It's the total inverse. So if you look at the dominant recessive gene chart, 6 ether is on one end of the spectrum and 9 ether is on the entirely other end of the spectrum. But neither one of them in and of themselves is good or bad. But until you put an intention with them, that's what makes the difference.
Gotcha. All right, we getting ready to get out of here, man. I'll probably hit you up for part 3. I'm about to answer some of these phone calls because they blowing my phone up right now. I want to hear what they got to say.
Well, just get your paper and take their questions, and we do them next time.
All right, what do?
What do?